DaVinci Resolve version 20 is out now, even for the iPad, and in this video we will look at every new feature that we got for DaVinci Resolve 20 here on the iPad. If you come to the App Store, you can always click here when you see here what is new. I can click here on more, then I see the latest update and all the features that they got with this one. Not just that, if you actually click on what's new, you come to the history. You can see every little update and what we got with the update. So in this video today, we will look at every little feature here from that list and go through all of the features together. Welcome to my channel, I'm Daniel, and on this channel it's all about DaVinci Resolve and Final Cut Pro for the iPad. So if you're not a subscriber yet, hit the subscribe button. We see us in the next video. This is over. Bye! So the first feature is called AI IntelliScript creates timelines with a user-provided script. This is an amazing feature. I have to show you what this does. First of all, if we come here to DaVinci Resolve, I went to ChatGPT and I let him write a little script. Make me a dialogue between my good consciousness and my bad consciousness talking about coffee. And he wrote me that script, and based on that script, I was recording 3 videos, one time as the bad consciousness, one time as the good consciousness, and one time as myself just reacting. So what I can now do in DaVinci Resolve, and that works in the cut page and also in the edit page. I can now bring in all the clips. These are the 3 clips here in my script. And the first step that you have to do is you have to transcribe the audio. So I mark all of them, right click, and now this is one of the new UI changes. We have now all of these AI tools here under AI tools. So I see the audio transcribe. I can transcribe the audio. I already did this. And in the second step, I can come in here again to AI tools and create a timeline using an IntelliScript. So now here I can use the script that I was writing. This is this one here, the coffee. And now it will create a complete timeline from my clips, using the audio from the timeline, from the clips, and also using the dialogue from my script and putting it all together. So this created now here the timeline coffee 1. And if we look here at the entire timeline, I see I have my timeline already cut for me. And also I have duplicates, different versions, if you prefer, like let's say from camera 2 or from camera 3. And now you can play around and you don't have to start fresh. One thing I noticed, if I do this here in the cut page, it will create the timeline not in my scripts folder, it creates it here in the master bin. If I do the exact same here in my edit page and I come here to the script folder and I select all 3 of my clips, right click, AI tools, and then create new timeline using IntelliScript, and I use the script here. It's creating a new timeline and it immediately comes in here. This is the timeline. The next feature is called AI Music Editor automatically edits music to the desired length. If I bring in music, let's say for example this clip here, the music clip is way longer, right? And of course I can use this one and bring it here to the end, but then this is an interrupted end. This is not an end of a song. What I actually can do is, let's undo this one. I can now select the music clip, come here into the inspector, and now when you scroll down here, you will find AI Music Editor. That's a new AI tool that we have. And I simply have to analyze. So I do analyze here. So this is one thing I noticed. If you do this in the edit page, it crashes. But if I do the same in the cut page, I hit analyze. Let me know in the comments if that... Got it. And so what it does now, it will create new endings that I can use and give me even 4 different variations. So you use these 4 variations. So for example, if we look here, you see this one here, version at the moment it's grayed out. So you have to one time let it run through. And then later you can instantly go in between those variations. And you can now see in real life, how long does it take for a full song to render this one. This is the M1 iPad Pro. If you have a newer one with the M4, for example, that whole process and all the new AI tools should be faster. Baseline, the new update brings in a lot of AI tools to our DaVinci Resolve. We already had a lot of AI tools, but we have even more AI tools now with the new version 20. Okay, so now it's done. And the thing what you can do now is, I will show you this in the edit page, is a little bit more visible. I can go here to the end and I can trim this one down here. I can come in here, inspector, go back here to the AI music editor. I can activate live trim, zoom in here a bit. And I can now change here the versions. You see version 2, version 3, version 4, and I can now use these, and it even shows me these points where it can make a new ending. So if I put it in here to there, and it created now a complete new end for my music track. So some side notes, I haven't tested this now on the desktop. It didn't work always as perfect as I wanted. I had to play around with the different versions to actually make this work, and sometimes it was not as good as, for example, Final Cut Pro has a couple of songs inside that you can use to end and trim wherever you want. But only with the songs that are provided with Final Cut Pro. These songs that I use here right now is actually from Epidemic Sounds. So I used a good soundtrack from a service. By the way, if you want to use that for your YouTube channel, there's a link here in the description. And it even changes that even here. So I think this is a benefit. Let me know in the comments if you use the desktop version, if that feature works even better on your machine. Maybe it even works better on a new M4 iPad. I think this is just the algorithm in the background, and it depends on song basis. So next feature is called the AI animated subtitle highlights or animated spoken words. If you come here to titles, if I type in animated, there's a complete new category now in with animated subtitles. And these subtitles will show you word by word, and I'll show you what I mean by that. You can use this for the caption of your video. So how to create a caption. You can create a caption by using here on the cut page this icon and come in here and create subtitles from audio. You can even say, for example, here English, and then create. Now it analyzes my timeline and it will create subtitles for that timeline. Now I have a separate caption file here. If you look at this one, it will look like this. Just a simple. The beans are calling you. But the cool thing now is you can actually highlight these in different versions. So for example, I can use this one on top of the entire track. So maybe this is just my iPad, but if I do this now, let's save. If I do this here on my iPad on the cut page, and I just try to drag it down to my timeline, it immediately crashes. I don't know why this is happening, but every time I do this, this is happening. Solution, it works on the edit page. These are the animated titles. So now I can grab this one here and drag it onto my captions track, the entire track. That will affect all of the captions and subtitles that I have here. And now if I look at this one, the beans are calling you. You'll be it changed this. So this is how you can use this new feature even here on the iPad. AI SuperScale now includes 3x and 4x enhanced upscaling. So let's say, for example, you have a clip that is a very bad resolution. So like this one here, for example. What I can now do is I can upscale this one, select my clip and come here into the inspector. And here under the first tab, I can now scroll down until I see here AI SuperScale. I can activate this one. And you see now I can change which mode I want to use. I had the 2x enhanced. If you use enhanced, it also will use more resources, so be careful with this one. It will make your videos laggy and it will take more time to render. And then now you can even go up to 4x and 4x enhanced, and you can change the sharpness and the noise reduction. So and the next AI feature is called AI detect music beats, display and allow beat snapping. If I come in here in my timeline and I bring in a song, so let's do this in the cut page again. I can now right click here on my audio track and I can say here, show music beats. It will now analyze this whole track for me and it will show me now the beats. And it has to be a 3/4 or 4/4 beat music, whatever that is called. But then if the song is like that, it can actually recognize the beats and you can now use these lines to snap your clips. So that makes it easier to edit to the beat. And you can always show or hide these beats. So if I come back in here and I say show beats, it's now hidden. Or if I right click again, show music beats, I can see them. Next one is ripple trimming of audio now available on secondary tracks. So what this one means is in the cut page, if you have ripple trimming on, so for example, this is this icon here, the magnetic timeline, like it's called in Final Cut Pro, for example. What this means is if I, for example, come in here and I cut something, let's say, for example, this one, and then I delete this clip here, now my timeline will ripple through the next point. So before DaVinci Resolve 20, this was only available for the primary track. So the primary track is track 1. Now what we can do is even on track 2, we can ripple delete, even if nothing is on primary track 1. So for example here, if I go in here and I make a cut here and a cut there, and now I select this one and I delete, boom. This one will bring in the rest of the timeline to that point. This is now a feature even in DaVinci Resolve 20. The next one is about the speed editor from DaVinci Resolve. This is from Blackmagic. This is a device that works with DaVinci Resolve on the desktop, and it even works here with the iPad. And they finally gave us a couple of more functions with the speed editor now with DaVinci Resolve 20. So next point is live overwrite now supports edit keys and search dial. So when you have a speed editor, you can actually use the speed editor with DaVinci Resolve on the iPad. I have a separate masterclass about the DaVinci Resolve speed editor. So even if you're already a little bit more advanced with DaVinci Resolve and you don't need the full masterclass, you can get the speed editor masterclass and learn everything about the speed editor. But by the way, in my masterclass about DaVinci Resolve on the iPad from beginner to pro, I also include the speed editor masterclass. So if you get the masterclass for DaVinci Resolve iPad, you will also get the speed editor masterclass. And the big plus of that one is everything you learn here applies even to DaVinci Resolve on the desktop. So it doesn't matter if you use it on the desktop or you use it here, because it works exactly the same on the iPad and the desktop. So for example, if you have the speed editor, you can do a lot of things. That it is designed that you work in the cut page and you don't need a mouse, you don't need the screen. You can do everything here with the speed editor. And on the speed editor, there is one function that is called the live overwrite. This is this one here. When you activate this one, you will see all of your different clips. And the idea is if you have multi clips, like let's say I have a couple of cameras at the same time recording me, and now I can in the edit very easily go from camera 1, 2, 3, 4, and then for example here hold 1, and then just write. This is why it's called write. I can use now the search dial and write on top here of my timeline. This works for every camera angle. This was already included. What they now did, if I come back in here I can go to source, then I see my source material, I can go to timeline, I can control my timeline. So let's undo, here's even a button for undo. So I undo this one. So the new functions, these functions here on the top, this row is to add your clips from your source bin. So you have something like smart insert, you can append, and all of these different things. And what they now included, you have now an additional function if you press and hold the button and use the search dial. For example, if I use smart insert, hold and press, and now use the search dial, I can now write as well, like the write overwrite here on this function. And all of the new functions that they now added is always press and hold, and you have to be in the source tape window, so not in the timeline. It doesn't work if you're here in the timeline, because then in the timeline, it will automatically smart insert. So what is smart insert? Let's undo this one here and undo this one here. Here in DaVinci Resolve, you see these little arrows. These are the so-called smart indicator. Depending where my playhead here is, the next smart indicator, this is where it will bring in my clips. So for example, if I use this one here, smart insert, it will bring in the clip here on that position. And now with the overwrite, the same. I go into the source material, I place my playhead here, so that means the smart indicator is here. If I press in smart insert and hold it, and I start drawing, it's now drawing here on the smart indicator, and ripple deletes or ripple extends the rest of my timeline. If I finish, I just release my button and done. The next one is append. When you use append, that means that your source clip will come on the end of your timeline. Undo this one. And if I press and hold it, I can do the exact same here with the search dial. I can now draw at the end of my timeline. And when I'm done, I just release everything, and that's on the end of my timeline. So the next one is called ripple overwrite. If I use this button here, it will overwrite the clip that is at the moment here at the timeline. So if my timeline is here on that position, and I now press and hold ripple overwrite, it will even show me, it marked now the clip here. This is the clip I will now overwrite. And now if I use the search dial, I can start overwriting that clip. The next button is called the close-up. If I use this button, it will put my clip here on top on the next track and will zoom in at the same time. So if I use this just regularly, boom, there's a clip now here and it's zoomed in. Let's undo this one. If I do the overwrite, so I press and hold this one, I will do the same, just instead I can now draw. I have to be in the source, that's very important. So press and hold, and now I can draw on here, and it will draw something here in my timeline with 2x zoom in. So the next button is called the place on top. So this one will always put the clip on the top of the next clip that we have here in here. So if I go here now to source, and I go here place on top, press and hold, and use my search dial, I'm drawing on top where my playhead was. So and the last one is this button here, and that basically, if you press and hold this one, what it will try to do, the clip that it finds here on top, it will try to match the timeline code. If the timeline code is not the same, it will give you this error message that the playhead is just glowing red. Okay, so once again, the speed editor is designed to make you a very fast video editor. I think this is an amazing tool, especially also for the iPad because it works with the iPad. I have a masterclass for the speed editor if you want to learn that one, or if you want to learn DaVinci Resolve with all the bells and whistles from the beginner to pro, even the advanced stuff, then get the masterclass for DaVinci Resolve on the iPad because the speed editor masterclass is part of that masterclass as well. So definitely check out the link in the description. Another cool thing that they now added here to DaVinci Resolve 20 is when you come here to the bottom, you have this little icon here that you can now click. And if you have your speed editor connected, or even yet, say for example, the micro color panel, because that one also works with the iPad, now you see both devices and how much battery they have and that they are connected. Okay, let's come to the next one. Next one is mouse drag to live overwrite multi-source and the sync bin. So we just talked about how you can use the speed editor to also overwrite and everything, right? But what if you don't have the speed editor? They have now introduced something amazing. You can now use the pencil on the iPad or your mouse. If you come here, let's say for example, here to the sync bin, this is the equivalent for multicam. And now I have different camera options. And if I place my playhead, let's say for example here, now I can hold down here with my mouse and draw this clip. As long as I'm holding, I can do exactly the same like with the search dial on the speed editor. I can draw to the right or to the left. And then if I release, now the clip within its length is on the clip. And of course, that also works here with the pencil. I can just simply go to a clip and drag around and draw on my clips like this. Next one, trim with save edit avoids overwriting adjacent clips. So we just talked about that you can use a pencil or the mouse to write on your screen, like with this one here, for example, right? If I come here in the cut page to this icon here and I click on this and I activate this feature here, trim with save mode, I show you what happens if this one is not on. If I now place my playset here and I draw this clip here, I draw over the next clip and then the next clip will be replaced. But what if I don't want that? What if I want a little warning if I drag too much and I don't want to overwrite my next clip? I can activate this little feature here, trim with save edit. So if this one is now active, I can do now draw. And now you see here, there's this little 3 coming up. And if I keep dragging, it will be a counter until it counts to 3 and then I can drag even more. It warns you a little bit before and you can still overwrite it if you want. Or if that is enough, you draw, oh, no, this is fine. I just want to keep it until there. Next one, Media Pool Metadata Palette allows quick review of selected clips. So if we come here into the Media Pool, you maybe have noticed automatically it already showed me this. If you come here to this icon and you deactivate this, this is how it was before. This is the new feature. You can now show metadata palette. And this only shows you if you're not in the timeline. If you're in the timeline, this is this icon here, then you're in your timeline view. If you're here in the source view or in the source tape view, these are 2 options how you can see and view your media pool clips. Now you can activate this, and when you click on your clips, you can see some of the metadata instantly. Like for example, here the frames and which resolution this one was. This was a 4K video, or this one, for example, was just a 1920 by 1340, interesting frame rate. And then this one here. So next one is a very cool one. Ability to copy and paste and remove attributes from timeline clips. So DaVinci Resolve is capable, even before DaVinci Resolve 20, to copy attributes. For example, if I come in here and I select this clip and I do a couple of operations, let's say I zoom in here, maybe I change the rotation angle, maybe I do color grading, whatever. Whatever I do to this clip, I can now copy and paste the attributes to another clip. In the past, you had to come to the edit page to do this. And on the edit page, it's very simple. If you have a keyboard, you can just click on this one, copy, and then select the other clip, right click, and then say paste attribute or option V, then this window is coming up. Now, even on the cut page, they changed that. So you can now come in here, right click if you don't have a keyboard. So longer press with your pencil and then say copy. And now I can come here to my new clip where I want to apply everything, longer press, and then say here, paste attributes or option V. Select this one, option V. And now this window comes up. And there's another change that they did. In the past, this was all grayed out. You had to then select whatever you wanted to copy. Now it automatically recognizes what changes you did on the first clip. So in this one, we had the zoom, the scale, scale X, and the rotation. If I want to copy all of them, I keep the arrows like this. If I don't want to copy the rotation, just the zoom, I disable rotation, say apply. And now this clip, if I check out here in the inspector, the transform and the zoom is changed, but not the rotation. And of course, you can do this even, let's undo this one. I could also select multiple clips like these ones, right click, paste attribute, paste all of the attributes from that one clip. This is even how you can copy color grades if you are working in the edit or cut page. So next one is support for dynamic trimming mode using the JKL controls also in the cut page. So what is this? If we are here in the cut page and you come up here to these little icons, the first one is the magnetic timeline, turn it on or off. And then the second one, this is the dynamic trimming mode. Every time when you turn on the dynamic trimming mode, your playhead will become yellow, indicating that you are now in the dynamic trimming mode. So to explain that a bit further, I will show you how this worked in the edit page before. In the edit page, traditionally, you had this feature already here. If I clapped on dynamic editing mode, then when I'm now in the dynamic trimming editing mode, I can use the keyboard shortcut J, K, and L. Without the trimming mode, what J, K, and L, if you have a keyboard, is L, playback forward, K is stop, and J is playback backwards. If I type J again, I can even speed up the playback, and the same for L, double tap L and it will playback speed forward. So this is just for playing my stuff. But if I'm in the dynamic trim mode, now instead of just playing back and forward, I can now manipulate my timeline. And depending on what I select, I will explain you that in a second. So before I show you what you now can do with JKL, and that was already working in the edit page, we have this now even in the cut page. So first of all, when we change our timeline, you don't always have to go in. Let's say, for example, if I want to make this clip shorter, I don't have to come in, make a cut here, select this clip, delete this one, bring this clip in here, and then, for example, do the other thing on the opposite, make a cut, delete this one, and bring this in here. There's a faster way how you can do this. The first way, you can, for example, always come here to the end of your clips, either with your pencil or with your mouse, and depending on what you select, if I select the end of that clip, I will only affect this one clip. If I select it in between, I can roll these clips in between. So for example, the same thing I just did without deleting anything, I can just grab this and position this somewhere here. The same with the end here. If there's still meat, you see here in the white line, I still have meat on both clips. I can bring this in closer here. So this is when you do the edit without playback. If I do now the same, and I select this one here, the edit trim mode, and I select, for example, here in between, now I can use the JKL on my keyboard, for example, playback forward. Now I see in real time, I can forward, backward, and hit stop. So instead of just making my cut, I can look at the footage and use the JKL buttons on my keyboard. And not just that, I just used the in-between. What if I don't select anything? Let's say I have this clip here and I don't select anything. If I now hit JKL, it's just a regular playback. What if I only select, let's say, the whole clip here? Now if I use L, I can move this clip on my timeline in real time to the right, or I can move it in real time to the left. So if I select now a complete clip while the ripple on, as the magnetic timeline is on, and the dynamic trimming mode, I can now change the position of the content inside. So you see this is basically the same, like, let's stop this. If I don't use this at all, and here on the cut page, you see this in the middle. If I select this, I can do this by hand. But if you want to see it in real time and use the shortcut, you can now use this by activating the dynamic trim mode and activating the ripple mode and selecting that clip here. And not just that, if I, for example, click only the end of a clip, and now I hit, for example, without the ripple timeline, I can move this clip more further and it will overwrite the rest. What about if I do the same, but I activate the ripple timeline? Now, I extend my clip, but the rest of the timeline stays the same. Just play around with this. It's a little bit confusing because there's many different features how you can use this. But the most important that you have to know is if you use JKL, L is forward, K is stop, J is backward, and that works now also here in the cut page. If you activate the dynamic trim mode, now instead of just playing your clips, you can actually use the different editing points. These are called editing points. So if I go to the end of a clip, if I go in the middle of a clip, if I go to the clip here, or if I select a complete clip, these are all called editing points. And now you can use JKL together with ripple on or ripple off. This will affect your timeline. So play around with this. Is a cool way how you can look at your footage at the same time and make emotional cuts and trimming points with the JKL. So the next one is an amazing step forward. We are talking now about the full feature audio mixer. Since the beginning, when we had DaVinci Resolve for the iPad, we had one thing missing, and that is the audio mixer. And now finally, at least for the cut page, we have now the audio mixer. We always had this button here on the top, but when you were opening it, nothing was showing here on the bottom. And now we finally have the audio mixer. So I will make this a little bit bigger. So, and with this, a couple of new functions were introduced or added that were originally already in the desktop version. Now we have them here on the iPad as well. So what they're talking about with the full length is you can actually always click here on this icon, and now you see your full-length audio mixer. So if you have a lot of audio tracks or video tracks, now you can change all of the audio just in that view. You don't have to go to Fairlight, you don't have to go to any other page. You can do this now straight in the cut page. And you can of course use the mouse to swipe here inside, so you don't have to be in the full view mode, but you can also use the pencil or the mouse here on the bottom and then just go in there. But it just makes it easier if you want to work on your audio. And what does it mean? Here in my project, for example, I added a couple of new layers. And if I would have audio clips in that one, I can now simply control my audio based on every track. So let's say, for example, in audio track A, I want to bring this audio down, here down as well. This one I want to boost. This is like a mixer. That's why it's called audio mixer. The cool thing about this feature is that we have now two more features: the dynamics and the equalizer. So each track now has access to the dynamics and the equalizer effect. Before that, we didn't have the equalizer and the dynamics effect. Now we have it, and this always applies to the full track. So every clip that you place on that track will have these settings. There's a couple of defaults that you can use here, like voices for dialogue, for mail or something, and you can play around with these. I will not go through this in this video, but this is amazing that we now have these audio effects here as well. And when you activate the dynamics, you will get this here. You find a limiter in here, a compressor. You can play around with this. These are amazing effects that were missing before DaVinci Resolve 20 here. And if you're wondering what is the first one, FX, because nothing happens if you click on this one, FX just simply will open here. If I go to an inspector, let's close this one for a second. You know, when I go to effects and I go here to audio effects, I can drag and drop these audio effects, not just on a track, on a clip. I can actually drag and drop them also here on an entire track. So now this effect, like what was that again? I forgot. No problem. I can select this track here, come in the inspector, and here under effects, I see this was the delay effect. No, the chorus. I already added the delay. Here's the chorus. If you want to go back to the settings menu, you can always click on this one. Then you see the settings for that specific effect. And these effects are applied not just to the clip. If I click on the clip, there's no effect here. But if I click and select the track, I see here the effects under there. So if I come back in here, and you see now this one is lighting up orange and this one is lighting up orange. That means those two tracks have effects applied. And to see that, you have to already open the inspector. And now if I click on this one, boom, audio track 1. If I click on this one, boom, audio track 2. So you will just see, and it's opening that one. If there's nothing in, it will actually open audio 3, but it will jump into this one because there's no effect applied. Unfortunately, you can't drag and drop effects now here. That would be amazing. Blackmagic, if you're looking, that doesn't work. I have to go back to this mode here. So I see the tracks here and drag and drop my stuff. Let's say here, for example, to this track, and then I have it applied here as well. So, and if we look at the edit page, the mixer is here, but it's not finished yet. The same in the Fairlight page. If we go to the Fairlight page, it's still empty. But still, I think this is a good way forward. It will take a couple of more updates. They will introduce this now, but we have it now on the cut page, so that means we make progress. I think a couple of more updates, then we will also see them in the edit page and the Fusion page. And I don't know what else is big missing in those pages. Of course, they're not all optimized for the iPad, but most of the functions work. But I can see the point that the mixer was always missing. And why would you release publicly the edit or the Fusion page if the edit or the Fairlight page if the mixer doesn't even work? But if the mixer now starts to work, and we can see it now here in the cut page, that is a good sign that maybe, I'm not sure, I'm just saying, maybe there is a future not so far away from now that we will get all the other pages officially as well. They never removed the pages, and all the features that were added to the desktop will always somehow also come back to the iPad version, I just wanted to let you that know, so that even in my video today, when I only cover cut page and color page, if there are new features that actually work on the edit page, most likely they also work here on the edit page. But because the edit page isn't officially launched yet, that's why they don't put it into the text here. Okay, so let's come to the next one. Custom grid for sorting and organizing in the media pool when you have the thumbnail view. So what does that mean? If I come here to my media pool, and this works now in the cut page, in the edit page, everywhere where you have a media pool, and you have here thumbnail view on. So let's come to my clips. Let's give this a little bit more space. By default, I have a couple of ways how I can sort this. If I come in here, I can sort this now, for example, here by name, and then I have it by name. The new thing that they now added is custom. And if I do custom, I can now do the following. I can now take this clip and bring this wherever I want. I can put these in a cluster here. I can bring this one, for example, in here, and this will stay throughout all of my pages. So if I come now here in the edit page, and I open my media pool, and I have to do the same thing here. I have to come to custom. Now the arrangement is the same here. So this just makes your life a little bit easier. If you want to work in the media pool and you want to put stuff together, you can do it now. This is a new feature. Let's come to the next two. These are actually very interesting. First one is Text Plus now has paragraph and line wrapping and some bounding tools. So what is this? If you come here to titles and you come to not the normal, the Text Plus is the one that has a little bit more advanced features in it. If I drag and drop this in here and I select this clip, I come in the inspector, and now I write a couple of more text. Normally what you see here is I will write and I write and I write and I go over my screen. And if you want that DaVinci Resolve is automatically shrinking it on the border, on the edge, you can do it. You can come here to layout, and instead of type point, you can now come here to text box. And if you activate here wrap to text box, it will automatically make a wrapping on my screen, and we will use this one here on the screen. Based on Text Plus, the next feature is called MultiText tool with layers and easy transform, clip and wrap control. So what do I mean? If I delete this Text Plus and I come here to titles, you will find now here MultiText. I can drag and drop this down, and it behaves same like Text Plus, all the functions from Text Plus. But if I now look in the inspector, I can add additional text lines. So I can come in here and add, for example, a text, and I can now select this one and I can edit. And if I select text 1, I can come in here to text 1, change the texts here. And the same is true if I have a lot of text here that goes out of the screen. I can also come in here now to layout. I can say here with text 1, instead of point, make a text box and wrap it around the text box. So with one function, you don't have to add lots of text pluses anymore. You can do a lot of text with paragraphs and everything inside with this multi-text tool. Next one, Subtitle tracks now support Fusion templates for styling. What that actually means is that you now can bring in these Fusion templates that I showed you already here when we talked about AI animated subtitle highlights or animated spoken words. So if you create a subtitle here in DaVinci Resolve and you come here to your titles, even the Fusion titles, like for example the animated ones, these are Fusion titles. You can now use these titles to stylize your subtitle track. I showed you this already, so I was doing 2 points at once. So selectively sync media originals with proxies only with the Blackmagic Cloud. So for that purpose, I just opened a Blackmagic Cloud project. So when you're here in your project library, and instead of being here local or network, you can come to your Blackmagic Cloud. If you have a Blackmagic Cloud account, you can use the Blackmagic Cloud to now store even files on the Blackmagic Cloud. And how it works, you can even have proxy files and original files. So it makes it easier for your team to work with proxies. So that's not new. This is just one way how you can work with it. For example, if I have my desktop, my laptop here, and I have my iPad here, this is a very good way to seamlessly work in between the projects very fast. So just using the Blackmagic Cloud. So also there is the Blackmagic Camera app. And in the app, you can connect to your Blackmagic Cloud account. And every time when I record a video, I can even say him to upload not just the original, I can even create a proxy and upload the proxy immediately. To make it then easier for your editors, let's say you are on the set, you're shooting something, and then immediately the editors back home, they can edit on the proxy file, which is much faster. But the problem is, if you create a new project, let's do this here, new project. when you are in the cloud, you will get this window here where you can do a couple of more settings, like the name, choose a location that is now just for the Blackmagic Cloud stuff. And then here, share project with multiple users. You can activate this to have multiple users work at the same time. And then here, synchronize storage in Blackmagic Cloud. Don't sync the media, sync only the proxies, or sync proxies and originals. So if you use sync proxies only, you only see the proxies and not the originals. If you sync proxies and originals, all of your originals will be synced both ways. So if I put an original here on my iPad, it will be synced to the cloud. If I have something on my cloud, I will download the original too. So the problem with this is, what if you only want to use 1 or 2 files with the original and the rest you just want to work with the proxies? And for that, they have now this new feature, which is now called Selective Sync Media Originals in Proxy. So how this works, I already created a project here, Cloud Files. I have 2 files that I recorded with my Blackmagic camera, and I uploaded the proxy on the original to my cloud. I created this new project, and my setting is that it's only proxy media. So now I only work with proxy media. So, but what if I, for example, let's say here on that iPad, I'm now using a different file, let's say, for example, this file here, add, and I have this file in here. And to create a proxy, for example, because that file doesn't have a proxy, I can come here to the edit page and now select that file, right click and say here, proxy media, generate proxy media. So until now, this is nothing new. This is, for example, also how you can improve the speed of your iPad. I have a couple of videos here on my channel where I talk about improving the speed for the iPad. If your iPad has problems with preview, then the fastest and the best way is to always generate proxies and work with the proxy media. Okay, so now it's done. Now I have both files. I have the proxy file and I have the original file. You can see this with this little icon here, and you see also these icons if you put it onto the timeline. And here on the top, you have this little icon. This is all not new. I'm just explaining that for people who have never heard that. You probably already know that, but you can always change between proxies. So now it prefers the proxies. So if it found a file that has proxy, now it will use the proxy file. If you want to use the originals, you can use this. So the reason why I had to do this, with this setting, with this Blackmagic project, now only the proxy file will be uploaded. And in the most case, this is what you want. But what if now there's a colorist somewhere in Australia and he needs the original, but just that one file? Now I can here right click and say sync original media. Then only for that one clip, I can now select that and it will upload here. By the way, you have, if you are in a Blackmagic Cloud file and project, you can always see here the cloud settings. You're connected and everything, blah, 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 how much storage you still have and so on and so on. Now that one original will be uploaded. So I encountered a little kind of confusion when I used the camera app from Blackmagic. I created a video and like I told you, I created a proxy and an original and I uploaded them both. And then I had these 2 files here. And when I just imported that file, that is the proxy file. This is not the original file because it only downloaded the proxy file. But when I right click on this file, the sync original media is grayed out. But what if I want the original? Because Blackmagic, with this feature, you can not just upload the original, you can also download the original. Why does it show me that gray? And the solution for that is, the reason is because at the moment in my project, it doesn't know that this is the proxy file. That's kind of stupid because it downloaded the proxy file. But what you have to do is, you have to right click on this one and then say here, proxy media, relink proxy media. When I work with my cloud projects, at the beginning, I can give it a folder here. And this is now my folder for my cloud project. And here I see my cloud files. And I see my camera uploads, which was my camera. And then here I see the proxy. And I have these 2 files. And I added these 2 files, but it didn't know that it was a proxy. So this file is a proxy. Now it has a proxy. Now the original is missing. So now I can right click and say here, sync original media, and now it will download the original media from the Blackmagic Cloud also here to my iPad, because these files were never on my iPad before. It was only on my iPhone. I only shot on my iPhone. I created original and proxy on my iPhone and uploaded it to the Blackmagic Cloud. So next one, support for alert red viewer background mode. What is that? If we come here to the cut page, and when you come here to this icon, you have the settings here for viewer background. By default, it's black. But you can also say transparent. So if I come into this video here in the inspector, and let's say I zoom it smaller. So this is my timeline resolution, and the image and the video inside is now smaller. That means I have now a transparent background. If I would place something below that, I would see that here. And you have a couple of options to highlight that. So you can have it black, so it's black. You can have it gray. And now what they did for just that you see it immediately, you can also change this now here to red, so that you immediately see, oh, there's something missing, this is transparent. Maybe you want that, maybe you don't want that, but just that you know, DaVinci is telling you that is transparent. You can change that here to red. So next one, let's talk about the transcribe audio. Transcription engine now offers extended language support. They added now more languages and more support for those languages. Next one, Smooth Cut now supports AI speed warp. I have these two clips now. Let's say I want to put a transition in here, and transition, if I search for a smooth cut, that's the smooth cut transition. This was already inside, but now it even uses already integrated the AI speed warp to just make this transition even more smooth. So next one, export audio transcriptions with speaker and timecode. So if I'm here in my media pool and I have a clip, let's say for example this one here, and I go here to AI tools, audio transcription, transcribe audio, I can checkmark this, use speaker detection. If you have multiple speakers, let's say a podcast or something, I can transcribe, and then here it will show me the different speakers. That's not new, we have this already, but I can do now the following. If I export this file, even with multiple speakers, I will have now the time codes and the speakers in the file that I exported. For example, here I can see the speakers, I can see the time codes. If your transcribe is obviously longer, you have more time codes and more speakers. And then the last one from the cut page is again, export transcriptions with improved phrases and sentence breaks. It just now analyzes and has better understanding for this one here with breaks and everything. So very, very amazing. Let's continue with the color page. And for the color page, we have two major changes that now included even here on the iPad, a couple of small ones, we will go over them. The first one is AI Magic Mask version 2 with Paint Brush. So they completely redesigned the AI that is in the background of Magic Mask. This is now a way better Magic Mask where you can select an object and it can even follow the object if it's hidden by other objects and stuff like that. Unfortunately, especially for the iPad, it takes now more time and more resources, which could be a downside, especially if it's just a simple selection. For example, I have this video here. What if I want to select just my hand? I have this little shot here where my hand goes like this and even turns around. What if I want to select this one? Magic Mask is a studio only feature, but if you have Magic Mask, I think just for that feature alone, is the studio upgrade worth it? So Magic Mask is this one, this icon here. And it still works the same how you select stuff, but instead of brushing over it, you just need points anymore. That's it. So I come in here, I created a new node, and now for example, I say here plus, and I select that point here. And then maybe I say plus again, and I select that point here. Maybe even with 2 points, it's enough. And to make your selection more accurate, you can use a couple of points, like 2, 3, 4 points. It should be enough with those two. I make another point here, so it knows this is my hand. So now my playhead is here in the middle. This clip has some left to the front and some left to the back. And I can just simply click this icon here because that means it will render forward and it will render backwards and analyze my clip. And I have to be honest, now this for example is in real time. This is just like a 10-15 second clip. You can see now it will take me around 1 minute 40 seconds with my iPad M1. Of course, if you have a newer iPad with a newer chip in, it will be faster. But this is one of the downsides of the Magic Mask, that it takes now more time. A good time to just grab a coffee and then come back. Okay, when it's done, you can come here to this icon here to highlight what it recognized. So, and if I now scrub through my footage, you see now even with the flipping over, I still have my hand all selected. And the cool thing is now I applied the Magic Mask to this node here. So whatever changes I do, it will apply to this, only the selected one, and it will follow the tracking here and the movement. So for example, if I come into my curves and I want to make, let's undo this so I can see this. So here's my hand. Let's say, for example, I want to make my hand very, very green, right? I can come in here, make my hand very green, and it will follow this throughout the movement. Now my hand is completely green. This is one method how you can change colors of clothing and everything just with 2-3 steps of clicks, waiting a bit, and boom, Magic Mask does the rest, and now I'm a Hulk. Now let's come to the next one, and this is a complete new tool that they added to the Warper, and now we have a Chroma color Warper grading. So let's come back in here, undo what we just did. If I'm here in the color wheels tab and I want to undo just the settings for that, I can click on this one, everything is done. If I come here to the Warper, original Warper was this one. So I can now, for example, click here on my hand, and then I see this is this kind of skin tone here indicated. I can take that one and, for example, bring this one to wherever color I want. Let's say, for example, here towards the blue. And now the same thing like before, I have this now in blue. Okay, that was the old warper. Now with the Chroma warper, we have this one, the Chroma warper. It works a little bit different. You have this one here, and you can now draw spines here onto this one. Take this point here, for example, and drag this one out like this, and boom, we have it orange. I can even create another spine, and like, for example, the highlights out here, I want to make them more blue, or like this, more crazy. I don't like that too much. Let's go more into it. This one. So it's a different way of using the warper. This is the Chroma warper. So next one is the Resolve FX warper feature, new spline and warp controls. If I add a new node and I come here to the effects tab, I can search for warper and then just drag and drop the warper here on that one. And now this is the warper. And what they now included is a complete new mode here, the warper mode curves, but they also redesigned the whole settings menu. There's a lot of settings. I will not go through everything, but basically what you can do with this, let's say, for example, here points, I can select points here and warp my image. And instead of just points, you can now even use the curves to change and warp your image. Play around with this. This is also a studio only feature. And another Resolve FX that uses these techniques with the spline and everything is the depth maps. Unfortunately, they changed it. I have a video here on my channel where I explained depth map. And at that time, it was still possible to open this with my M1 iPad Pro. In the meantime, they changed because of performance. They took this feature away, not completely. If you have an iPad with 1 terabyte, so that instead of 8 GB RAMs, you actually have 16 GB RAMs, then the feature depth map is also available for you. I double checked my iPad mini, but because I was just curious with not even an M chip, do I have the depth map here? But I don't have the depth map here as well. So I have exactly the same features like here on my M1 iPad, which is kind of unfortunate because I think it's capable. They could have just included it because if you get a MacBook Air with M1, which is the same chip, they don't remove it there and it only has 8 GB of RAM. So I think this is, I don't know, not many people need this. Maybe you will never need this, but unfortunately it was working. I have a video here. My M1 was capable of running it. Of course, it was resource intense, but anyway, if you have a 1 terabyte iPad Pro, then of course you can use this one as well. Or if you're watching at the moment and you're thinking about using this in the future, then yeah, be aware. There's a couple of features. I don't know them out of my head. On the Blackmagic website, there is a document where it says which features are only available with the 1 terabyte option. It's not many. It's like 2 or 3 features at all. Most of them you don't need. That's for sure. So then we have support for Samsung lock. Now you can actually use the codec lock from Samsung cameras. And we have also support for ACSE 2.0, and LUTs and color space can now be modified in the multi-user project. Multi-user, we talked about the Blackmagic Cloud. If you set up your project as a multi-user, multiple users can at the same time work in it. And now you can even work in LUTs and color spaces at the same time with different users at the same time. Then we have lift, gamma, and gain micro panel sensitivity improvements. I showed you the micro color panel in this video already. That's the micro color panel. It's still in the box, but now they changed some of the sensitivity for that micro color panel as well. So everyone who has that one would probably appreciate those changes. So last topic are the general applications. So now we have a user definable location for media created in Resolve. So I showed you this already when I was working with the Blackmagic Cloud stuff. I could now select a folder and put all of my stuff in that specific folder. So it's not just sitting in my DaVinci Resolve folder anymore, which is a good plus point because that means if I delete my DaVinci Resolve from my iPad, I don't lose all of these medias. You can set them up separately. Bluetooth connection status pop-up dialog. I talked about this. This is when you have your devices like the speed editor or the color panel connected, and it will give you a little pop-up here on the bottom, and then you can see it. And last, general performance and stabilization improvements were included, of course, in DaVinci Resolve 20 as well. So guys, that was a huge update. I have to tell you 2 things I don't like about the new update. It's the first time, and it's really hard for me to tell that because we got so many new features, so many amazing things. DaVinci Resolve is one of the best softwares out there, but we got a downgrade. Yes, guys, and probably if you're watching or you were waiting for this video, and I was thinking about, should I even include this in this video? Because it could be that in the next update, everything is fixed. Keyframes. In the past, we had a feature that was called retime curve. And I have a video here on my channel where I teach you how to do speed ramps even on the iPad. And for that, you have to come to the edit page and you have to open the retime curves. But Blackmagic is redesigning the complete keyframing aspect and the curves. And the idea behind is amazing. You have now a new keyframe tab that you can open that opens keyframes and also curves, and you will have more space in that one. I think the direction is right, but the problem is at the moment, I guess because of time pressure, I don't really know Blackmagic, but because of now they had to release it, they put out 20. We don't have the keyframe editor yet on the iPad. It works on desktop, but it doesn't work on the iPad. With shortcuts, I was able to open that keyframe editor. So the editor is already there, but it's empty. Same like with the audio mixer in the past. We didn't have the audio mixer for many generations. The keyframe editor is empty. And now why is it a problem? Retime curve is already gone. There is still in the shortcuts list an option for retime curves, but if I put a shortcut in, I can't open the retime curves anymore, which is unfortunate. That means at the moment, we are kind of limited. They added something to the color page. They added something to the cut page a couple of versions ago that you can change speed points even now in the cut page. If you just want to do a rough speed ramp, that is possible. So let's say, for example, one cut, and then you speed up the clip and then it comes to the next, you can do that. But you can't do the smooth curves that you were able to do it in the past. And why do I say this is a downgrade? Because I can use my iPhone now and I can go into CapCut or InShot, and both of these apps, which are, I don't even compare them to DaVinci Resolve, both can do speed ramps with curves. So I hope this is just one update away. I hope they make this and fix this very fast. I hope they just had a deadline and they had to push it out for whatever reason. On the desktop, it works, so that we have the equivalent. And when it comes to the iPad version, I want to end with this. This is a positive. When it comes to the iPad, it will be better. Let me explain you why. The curves, the retime curves, was not the best way to handle curves. It was not really stable. It was ugly to work with. So there were other software where you can do something like this easier on an iPad or with a touch screen. But you could do it. Now, at the moment, we can't do it anymore. And that's why I say it's a downgrade. Maybe I'm talking way too long about this, because maybe in the next week or in 2 weeks we have an update and then we have the keyframe editor. I'm hoping that we get this fast and it doesn't take us a year or something to get this to the iPad, because that really is a feature. If I'm now very honest to you, and I hope Blackmagic is watching, yes, all the other features, amazing. I'm not grateful for them. They are amazing, but they are very advanced. Why this is a basic feature. Even for beginner video editors, I tell them how to use keyframes and curves. This is something that's the core of any editing program. And that doesn't work at the moment on the iPad. I couldn't find a solution. Let me know in the comments below if you find a solution for that. And I will end this video with this. Still, we have a lot of features and there will be updates, and I'm looking forward that they will fix stuff like that. And the second part, they introduced something that is amazing and that is missing on the iPad as well. The voiceover feature. I have like 2 or 3 videos here in the last 2 years where I talked about voiceover. For example, if you go to Final Cut Pro on the iPad, which I don't like to compare because still Final Cut Pro is a more dumbed down version. It's not the exact Final Cut Pro that you get on the desktop. So I give credit to DaVinci Resolve that we have most of the features because they treat it as the same software. And with DaVinci Resolve 20, we have a new feature that is called the voiceover feature, and you have it now in the cut page and in the edit page. This feature is amazing. When I heard about this one, I was looking forward to make a video here on that channel just about voiceover and to finally give you an alternative that is not so complicated like my voiceover alternatives that I made in the past. There is ways. So the good news, there is ways how you can do voiceovers on the iPad. You don't have to go to a desktop. You can work with voiceovers on the iPad, no problem. But you want to do this in the program. That's an editing program. And we have this feature now. They introduced this as a highlight, but it didn't come to the iPad. So these are the 2 downgrades. I hope Blackmagic fixes them very soon and brings them to the iPad very fast, that maybe in 2-3 weeks, or at least like, let's say this year, okay? I have hopes. This year, we have these features also here in DaVinci Resolve for the iPad. So, if you want to learn more about DaVinci Resolve, definitely check out my DaVinci Resolve iPad Masterclass. Also, the Speed Editor Masterclass is part of that, so that you can learn everything about DaVinci Resolve that is important for you. I will bring you from a beginner, and yes, this course, even if I teach a lot of advanced stuff, is in the core from beginner to pro. I take you from a beginner and show you the most important stuff that you need, and then later, that's why I say this masterclass is the best, and I also call it masterclass because I also go deep on advanced techniques. And that's it for this video today. I'm Daniel. If you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, hit like if you like this and learn something about this video or about DaVinci Resolve on the iPad today, and we see us in the next video. I'm Daniel. Bye.